Thanks for tuning in to Look at My JPEG, the podcast that discusses NFT, DeFi, and NFT financialization. This is your host, Xerox Jose, the founder of NFTperp. The reason why I want to do this podcast is because there's just not enough people talking about NFT financializations. In this podcast, you can expect us to invite guests that are builders, founders, even investors that are deep in the NFT financialization space. We'll discuss their story, what they're building, and how you can get involved. So thanks for tuning in. Welcome to episode 25. This week's episode, we had a great conversation with Collection.xyz. Collection.xyz is an NFT Decentralized exchange. It uses an AMM, which is an automated market maker. With Collection.xyz, users can create liquidity pools with NFTs and ETH and automate buying and selling of NFTs without intermediaries and without having to be glued to your screen, if you will. And anyone can buy and sell NFTs instantly from the pool. It's a permissionless protocol that cannot be shut down or be, centralized in a way. And we hope you enjoy this conversation. I want to give a quick shout out to the Collection.xyz team. They have created an incredible user interface, user experience, and I want to make sure that doesn't go unnoticed. Hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. All right, for those that are tuning in live, thank you guys so much for hopping in. And this is the 25th episode of Look at My JPEG Podcast, where we interview NFT finance protocols, founders, and teams to discuss, what they have been building, how they contribute to the NFT ecosystem in the NFT finance space, their origin stories, and sort of their angles of what they see in the market. Today, we have the team from Collection.xyz. Which is a NFT AMM. We're going to dive into a lot of the details on how the protocol works and hopefully get into a bunch of different stories on the protocol itself. So welcome, guys. I think there are maybe one or two of you currently that are speakers.
GM, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, happy to be here. I mean, it's been a long time and 25 episodes. I think I still remember when you guys were in like single digits.
Yeah. I think we've talked when you're at Goblin Sachs at the moment, or previously.
Yeah, previously.
And yeah, got it. And great to connect again. And we have you and Spencer joining us today. Is there anyone else from your team as well?
Yeah, I think it's just me and Spencer.
Hey, how's it going? Can y'all hear me?
Spencer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. Super nice to be here.
Yeah, excited for this one. Been wanting to get in touch with you guys in chat for quite some time. So let's get started. Before we talk about Collection.xyz, Spencer, and also aren't we all? Give us a quick intro of yourselves, how you got into crypto, what you've been up to before Collection.xyz, and then we're going to kind of dive into the origin story of Collection.xyz.
Sounds good. I can get started. Hey, everyone. This is Spencer. I'm one of the co-founders of Collection.xyz. Been personally in the crypto space for about 6 to 7 years now. So I started my journey in crypto by first building products specifically focused on crypto wallets. So I was building this I was helping to build out this company called Global Wallet back in the day. And then I started a bunch of startups thereafter leaving the company. And one of the startups that I started, which is focused on trading and software for data and analytics, was acquired by CoinMarketCap. And thereafter, I spent my time at CoinMarketCap leading up the exec team, focused on operations, growth, revenue, and all that kind of good stuff. And then in 2020, we closed the acquisition with Binance. So spent some time working with Binance and the various leadership across the board to integrate both teams in a meaningful way, but yet staying independent for CoinMarketCap's operations. And then thereafter I left and spent some time DeFi. DeFi was really exciting at the time, and I joined Coinbase actually to focus on product. So at Coinbase, I was working on leading up product for Coinbase Wallet, DEX, and derivatives. And as you guys have seen recently as well, Coinbase is definitely expanding its footprint internationally with, like, for example, some of the offshore efforts as well, aside from the US. But yeah, I had the opportunity to work very closely with all parts of the product, specifically focus on retail customers, retail users in the US and international markets. And I think we really expanded on the functionalities and usage. And I dare say right now that Coinbase Wallet as a product is one of the best products in the space for non-custodial experiences. Hope you guys definitely can try that product out. We definitely put a lot of effort into that. And then last year in March, I started Gomu, which is first focused on NFT infrastructure. And very quickly, our team of co-founders, including Jeremy, Kenneth, and YB, who are not on the call today, we basically built out a team to a small size, about 15 people. And now we are actually 100% focused on Collection.xyz, which is the NFT DEX AMM that we just launched recently. And Henri, Amos, and myself actually worked together in various capacities over the last couple of years. We've actually known each other for about 6 to 7 years now. So super nice that he actually recently joined the team and leading up growth and BD on our end. So yeah, I'll leave it over to him for intro too.
Yep. You guys can just call me Amos. I think it's easier to pronounce. Hi everyone, I'm Amos and I lead growth and BD at...
Hey Amos, I think you are mute.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh. Spencer, can you hear me? All good?
Yeah, I can hear you, so I think we're good.
Okay, then I'll continue. So I joined the crypto scene around like 2017, a couple of years back. And more recently, I got a lot more active in the last 2 years, starting out being a core contributor at DAO House for like around 2 years, getting really deep into the DAO space. I think that's where I got to know more about NFTFi, got in touch with the folks at Collection.xyz, initially when it was called Gringotts. So was there for quite a long time, and then started to lead partnerships and integrations when we raised a small round. I think that got me really deep into the rabbit hole of NFTFi. And then I joined, basically Collection.xyz, and everything else is history. Yeah, happy to share more about NFTFi and talk about Collection today.
Yeah. So for those who are listening, Amos and I have talked various time when he was working at Goblin Sachs between our collaborations, which are still in the works. We're moving a little bit slow on that, but there's that history there. But yeah, great to connect here, everyone, and thanks for giving us the introductions of yourselves. I want to maybe take a step back and ask Spencer, what drove you guys to create Collection.xyz? Like, what shifted the focus from Gomu now that your entire team was working on Collection.xyz? Like, what were the reasons? Like, what kind of gaps you saw in the markets that drove you guys to create this protocol?
Are you speaking, Spencer? Because we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think he just became a listener for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm inviting him to as a speaker again. Let's see.
Yeah, let's try that.
All right. Well, while we wait for Spencer, maybe Amos, you can give us a little bit of what you know about the origin stories. Oh, well, I think Spencer's good again.
Yeah.
Hey,
Seems
sorry.
like it's back.
Yeah, my Twitter app is like really buggy, so apologies for that. Yeah, so I think the question earlier was around our origin story of like Gomu and how we focus on collection after. Is that the question?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I can give you a background. So, when we first started, I think we really had a lot of experience between the co-founders and myself of building out the really good, Web3 infrastructure wallets, experiences, and so on. Jeremy, one of our co-founders, used to work at Chainlink, and I was focused on Coinbase Wallet, as I mentioned earlier. So when we started, I think we both had this like shared experience of like being really frustrating to build out apps in this space, specifically querying NFT data and all kinds of like information and so on. So because of that, we started with the first problem of building out the Gomu APIs, and we worked with a lot of developers at the time since like March of last year, really talking to them and understanding what the problems are they have. What many of them told us is they just can't get consistent, reliable information, both on-chain as well as from order books, like for example, from OpenSea, from all the other marketplaces, and also in terms of like the metadata and the images, videos and stuff. It was just really hard to get all of this information into the applications when they were building out these things. And these can range from developers building out wallets to marketplaces to games and so on. The problem honestly still exists today, but it's just that I think over the past couple of months and a year or so, there's just a lot of like new products that are being built for the space. So companies like Alchemy, for example, has built out really robust NFT APIs now with Node, and of course, Gomu API products are also fairly strong for Ethereum and a couple of other networks like Polygon and so on. So during that time, we started evaluating, I think, a lot of the things in the space. And one observation that we had was just how trading NFTs beyond order book marketplaces from an NFT finance perspective was still fairly nascent. There were quite a number of like lending protocols that were built, like NFTFi, like BandDAO, and so on. And of course, there were some products offered by some of the more centralized players like X2Y2 and so on as well. And then on the derivative side of things, of course, you have like products like nftperp and so on that are coming up. But I think at the time it was still fairly early. On the other hand, on the AMM side of things, we saw some innovative protocol design by NFTX since about 2 years ago, as well as a SudoSwap that came out with their launch after being around for OTC services for a while. We just felt that after evaluating this space, that there were so much opportunities for improvement. And also because of our background in understanding DeFi, we just thought that there were opportunity for us to improve upon this stack even further. And that was the reason why about 6 months ago, we started with a small experiment to do this liquidity incentive protocol on top of SudoSwap to start. So we basically had to build out this like vault product that allows anyone to create an ERC20 token incentive for liquidity providers on Sudo. When we launched that, I think we had a pretty decent amount of value that was like, I guess, contributed to the protocol. And what we have found is a couple of unique insights. The first one was that a lot of creators and projects that we spoke to didn't quite like the parameters in which the SudoSwap protocol had for them at the time, specifically around the no royalties, as well as the protocol charging fees, even though they're not honoring royalties to creators. So we felt that at the time, it was really hard to work with many of the projects in that particular instance because of that. And then the other insight that we got was that a lot of users were really excited about this DeFi related primitives. When they saw that, let's say, for example, for every dollar of like the ERC20 token incentive that was like, I guess, like distributed in the vault, there was about a corresponding amount of $10 to $50 of TVL into the liquidity being deposited. And people were very excited about how novel this liquidity incentive mechanism is. Many projects specifically reached out to us to learn more about this. And they even wondered, of course, all the usual questions about how they can possibly participate. But what we have also noticed at the time is many projects didn't have enough ERC20 tokens or funds raised. And they were wondering if we can use something like NFTs as well for this particular purpose. So taking that insight, I think that really encouraged us to continue developing in this space, which is why we started developing Collection.xyz's current version on Ethereum mainnet since then. So for the past 4 months, we've been spending a lot of time building this out. And right now, of course, I can share that Collection has launched on mainnet Ethereum on April 4th. And really, it's a fairly, and of course, in our opinion, really innovative NFT DEX that enables users to be able to pool based on, of course, the entire collection or specific NFTs within a collection that they only care about. And based on the feedback, as I mentioned in our previous iteration, we've incorporated a lot of the feedback from the community in the protocol design. We allow liquidity providers to set royalties, when they're creating these pools, and we also charge 0% protocol fees, and we allow the liquidity providers to set the parameters of delta and fees that they want. So it's very liquidity provider friendly, which is the key component of our design. And of course, we made it very collection friendly as well, and NFT project friendly with the royalties and other design choices. And from a pool creation perspective, we don't want everything to be a floor NFT, right? So we really want to encourage the community to collect gopher bored apes, to collect disheveled hair, Azukis, and other unique NFTs that matters to make NFTs more exciting as a space. And I think, of course, we've received some really good feedback around the advanced pooling feature that we have today as well. So yeah, that's just some things in a nutshell, and happy to dive into, more on the protocol side of things later on.
Yeah, I love the fact that you guys, had that initial phase of creating solutions for problems that you saw yourself, like with Gomu, and then later on sort of saw that what's really needed in the liquidity markets for NFTs, and you built Collection.xyz for liquidity mining purposes. And as you found out that perhaps the parameters that Sudo had provided for LPs are not that flexible, you guys ended up creating your own protocol that sort of through iterations, by listening to customers, potential users, you built something that people will want to use and that are more user friendly, if you will. So I love the fact that you guys are quick to ship and quick to reiterate as well. I think I was on a chat with the Arbitrum team just yesterday, and we spoke a lot about how startups, like a really effective way to attract users and build that initial product is you push something out first, and as you are listening to users, you continue to reiterate. And I think you guys being able to reiterate different products and services and to meet user demand is something that I think can't go unnoticed, right? I think so. Hats off to you guys for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think to your point about iterating, 100%, right? I think the moment you choose to build a startup, it's almost like you jump off the cliff first, and then you build the parasail or whatsoever, in midair, right? Build the parachute in midair. So it feels like that sometimes, and the default mode is basically you crash to the ground, right? So I think right now, if you think about it from a product iteration perspective, if you think that from a startup perspective for us, Gomu was V1, maybe the liquidity mining protocol was V2, the NFT DEX that we've built, maybe it's V3. So yeah, I think this we're still trying to make the parachute, and hopefully we will survive before we hit the ground.
It is a bit of a shift, right? If you think about it, if Gomu's your first vision was to help developers build development a lot easier with APIs and understanding liquidity, which is similar-ish to projects like Reservoir, right? Reservoir is a good friend of ours, and they provide a lot of infra for projects and collections and in different marketplaces as well.
Yeah, 100%. We're huge fans of the Reservoir team. I think when we started, I think they started maybe 6 months before. And what I really like about the Reservoir team is that they focus on the order book, the liquidity side of things, right? And they took a slightly different approach from Seaport, which basically made everything at a protocol level. I think Reservoir was a lot more agnostic to all different types of order books in the space. And I think they found a really nice niche. It reminds me, I think, of some of the way that we think about data and integrations at CoinMarketCap previously, where essentially no matter like what kind of exchanges you want to build, whether it's like a Binance or KuCoin, OKX or Coinbase or whatever, we essentially integrate with the data that you have, and that we aggregate that in a very nice way for users. So then users can then use our APIs and data to access the data across all these different exchanges and so on the retail app, of course, but also through APIs, right? So I think Reservoir in some ways has like slowly but surely, I think, improved the product overall. And we are also huge fans, and we are integrating the collection liquidity to Reservoir as well, so that any marketplace aggregator in the future will be able to add collections liquidity very easily on their end.
That's amazing. I want to touch on, and before we get into Collection.xyz, the unique features and how it differentiates with other NFT AMMs, I want to just give you a big compliment from one founder to another. You guys have done an incredible job with your UI, and I think that speaks volume of your background being a product, focused. When I don't think you're a developer, but you're a product manager. So it speaks to the level of excellence you want to provide for user experience. A lot of time, like I'm thinking too about how different protocols in the DeFi space, when things first came out, like the UI is very clunky. And as different teams that have really solid background on product comes into the space and compete and reiterate products, like these experience gets better and better. And just from the perspective of your app itself, the homepage, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you have a section that says I am a liquidity provider. As a toggle switch, you can change the trader, change the creator, and you have different unique value proposition very, very clearly set on your website. I think this is something that a lot of DeFi protocols and projects can learn from you guys.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I think a lot of these things, I feel it's like, as the builder yourself, you try to make things clearer. And we often have this, like, even from myself and I think the team members, we often have like tunnel vision when we build products and design products, because we are like almost like too familiar with what we're building, right? We have this like list of implicit assumptions about how things should work, and we just kind of expect users to kind of like learn and be able to understand that. So I think a lot of the work really is like to try to take our almost like context away and try to design the experience in a way that they don't require the context that we have from like 6 years of like experience building in crypto, right? I think what I've noticed as well, to your point about DeFi, is that the DeFi protocols, like I remember when I first used Curve Finance and Uniswap, they were very, very different, I think, to me at the time too. And I remember Uniswap was just like that simple, but almost like too simple, right? And then Curve Finance was this like really retro UI that was super interesting as well. And I think in some ways, even though we can critique the DeFi sort of like UIs, and they've improved a lot over the years as well, right? But I remember at the time, definitely there was a very steep learning curve. And I think kind of our North Star of thinking about products, at least for collections, that we want to design them in a way that's as intuitive as maybe like Matcha, Zapper, and some of these like products in the space, which have really set the bar pretty high in the DeFi slash realm.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about 24 minutes later. Let's talk about Collection.xyz, what it is, how is it different from other AMMs out there, and why should people use it?
For sure. Yeah, you should use it definitely because we built it. I think that's the very simple answer. And I was almost like, I was actually quoted saying this for the Blockworks launch article. I just said it as a joke, but it's kind of funny how like Michael actually quoted that in the article. But I think more seriously, I really think that the reason why you should use Collection today is because of a few factors. Of course, the first thing is that we have an very innovative DEX protocol that allows you to create a liquidity pool for buying and selling NFTs automatically. And I think the key here is automatically, because if you were to do the same strategy on OpenSea, placing bids and placing asks and essentially buying and selling like throughout the entire day or through the week. You have to do that and be basically glued to the screen at all times. A liquidity provider on Collection.xyz essentially does a lot of analytics and does a lot of analysis and research, sets the pools up, and can then forget about it for like a period of time, right? So whether it's a week, a month, or whatsoever, and you can then monitor, I guess, how the pool is performing in terms of people buying and selling the NFTs vis-a-vis the pool in that perspective. So that's what we found really interesting. As an example, a liquidity provider who created a pool, for Pixelmons, when the Pixelmon floor price ran up from, I guess, 0.4 to about 1 over the past week, and of course back down to about 0.6. The pool actually did about 15, I think, like 10 sales of Pixelmon NFTs and bought about 5 back, right? So net, the fees that was accumulated was actually really healthy. And the realized APR from both the bid-ask spreads as well as the fees is in that kind of 50 to 100% range on an annualized basis. So it's really nice to kind of see that kind of in action. And imagine if the liquidity provider here were to actually do this on Blur or OpenSea, he or she would have to be actually glued to the screen to make this happen throughout this time period. And I think where liquidity providers really benefit is when prices are fairly volatile, but stable, I guess, at that price over the long term. And that's really the risk expression that you are looking for when you are being a liquidity provider. I do want to emphasize that for regular user, though, there's no difference on buying on Collection than on other marketplaces like OpenSea and so on. But yeah, that's just some of the things that I've observed, at least from a user perspective, how Collection is fairly unique for the user. But yeah.
I find that very interesting. And is this solely because Collection.xyz is an AMM, therefore it automates market making strategies for you so that you don't have to, like you said, be glued to your screen and trade?
100%.
Yeah.
That's where the AMM contract allows you to do, because you're essentially setting this bid and ask starting prices and then setting the delta of how much you essentially want the prices to move when certain trades happen. So imagine, let's say, for example, I set this initial price at 1 ETH, and if someone, let's say, sells an NFT into my pool, what then happens is that, let's say if I set it as 10% delta, then the next time someone wants to sell another NFT into my pool, the buying price will be adjusted instead of 1 ETH to 0.9 ETH. So essentially what then happens that creates this interesting mechanics where I'm always constantly, from a pool perspective, shifting my prices when when trades happen vis-a-vis my pools, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
And I would imagine like the probability of it all just comes purely from the spreads between the bid and ask delta, right?
You
Yeah,
can
so when
earn
you-
both. Yeah, you can earn
Okay.
both from the bid-ask spreads as well as the trading fees. So all these like parameters are all up for the users to choose. So I guess like I guess another way to explain what Spencer is saying is the bonding curve really tries to emulate how a trader thinks, which is you want to sell more when the price goes up and you want to buy more when the price goes down, right? So that's what the entire logic does. And I think just to add a bit more flavor in the recent markets for NFTs, the automated market maker is really something for the trader that doesn't want to sit in front of a computer. I think with new incentives from Blur, airdrop farming, as well as NFT5 primitives like lending, perps, borrowing, the NFT markets will become more volatile when we introduce more of these finance elements. And a lot of the Blur farmers that are not used to this volatility have been losing money every day, trading on Blur. So an AMM is actually a great way for them to capture these up and down swings to earn yield, trade without, sitting in front of the screen like 24/7.
Yeah, that makes a lot. Yeah, so for those that are listening, like you can do market making on, as far as I know, on OpenSea, X2I2, perhaps even Blur. I'm not sure if they have an open API yet. I'm pretty sure they don't. But I'm sure someone has figured out how to use it programmatically. With regards to Collection.xyz AMM, can you tell us like what are the differences between a your AMM comparing to Pseudo? Because Pseudo was essentially one of the first ones. Actually, they are the first ones that came out with NFT AMM in non-fungible format, right? NFTX is way before that. They use a X, Y, and K curve. They use fungible tokens. You have to fractionalize it so you can trade with that and redeem it. A little bit different, right? So with Pseudo that came out, they also had delta base, exponential base differences on price actions. They're one of the bottleneck that they faced early on was you don't have rarity driven pools, which you guys do, which is quite different. So besides that, like what are the differences fundamentally between Collection.xyz and SudoSwap?
Yeah, happy to start that one. So the first thing, as you mentioned, that we differentiate from a protocol like SudoSwap is when you create a trade pool or as an AMM, essentially, you're able to specify which particular tokens in an NFT collection that you want to include. So out of a 10,000 token ID collection like Bored Ape Yacht Club, instead of like being able to buy and sell the entire collection, you can exclude NFTs like the ones that are marked as stolen on OpenSea, or you could only include the ones that you care about, like gold fur trades, hoodie trades, and so on. So I think that level of customization is very useful to the liquidity provider, especially the more professional ones who have a very concerted and direct and specific strategy. Beyond that, when you create a liquidity pool on Collection, you actually receive an LP token, very much like a Uniswap V3 LP token that you receive when you create a liquidity pool on Uniswap. And what an LP token essentially represents is your ownership of the pool. And any wallet that holds that LP token will be able to withdraw, deposit more NFTs, or to, I guess, recognize the value, or even maybe collateralize that, right? So it introduces this new level of like composability with other NFT finance protocols in the future. And of course, we are working on a lot of those integrations and possibilities as we speak, right? So imagine, let's say, if you have a lending protocol, you could possibly collateralize that LP token because it actually comprises, let's say, NFTs or ETH, and even the possible fees they can create, possibly generate from the pools itself, right? The other thing that we've also been able to differentiate from some of the other guys is that we found that you can really create liquidity pools of like NFTs as long as with ETH, but also with other pairs. So we've seen some demand and interest to create like a Bored Ape and ApeCoin pools, or CryptoPunks and XPunk token pools, and so on. So I think there's like new interesting ideas could all be possible with our protocol. Last but not least, I think from a fee structure perspective, we really have thought quite deeply about this. We have 0% protocol fees just right now, but in the future, if you do want to introduce fees, you will not be introduced as a flat protocol fee. It's really like a percentage of whatever the liquidity provider is earning. And this protocol design right now is very liquidity provider friendly. So we make it easy for the liquidity provider to introduce incentives, to introduce fees, delta, and so on, and specify the royalties they want to reward. The most important thing actually that I forgot to mention is coming back to our first experiment of like liquidity mining. We are actually right now submitting for audit the collection draw vaults. That will be the next feature that we'll release for Collection.xyz very soon. So that it basically is an ability for anyone to use either NFTs or ERC20 tokens to reward for liquidity providers. So imagine, let's say, for example, I'm an NFT collection and I'm launching a new collection soon. I can actually use this like product to essentially reward liquidity providers on my main collection NFTs of my next collection. And it's not something that needs to be fractionalized. If I want to just put in one NFT into the draw vaults, I can do so as well. And then we actually use Chainlink VRF, random distribution to essentially do a draw and distribute the NFT to the liquidity provider. And the liquidity providers that have a higher proportion of liquidity versus the others in that given collection will have a higher chance to receive the NFT. So this is kind of how we are introducing essentially new formats into the NFT space, and really hoping that many people in the space will find this exciting and be able to use this in a very meaningful way.
Got it. Yeah, that's quite interesting. And on your protocol, for buying and selling NFTs, like what is the difference for people that want to buy or sell into the pool? Do they have to keep an eye on the TVL? Like what do users need to know when they trade on Collection.xyz?
Yeah. To a regular user who's buying and selling NFTs, there's really no difference in experience versus buying now or selling now on OpenSea and Blur. What is maybe interesting to note as well is that when you're buying and selling a collection and you see that it's available for sale or someone is looking to buy, that is actually an instant and guaranteed confirmation as long as you of course submit the ETH transaction before someone else submits it. Because when you create a liquidity pool, you actually deposit the NFTs and ETH into the contract. So that is in a way guaranteed liquidity. So what one of our friends in the community says, like liquid valuations and liquid prices essentially. So that's the amazing thing about it. There's no instance where, for example, if I want to sell as an NFT against the pool doesn't have the ETH. That's not possible as long as the pool is holding the ETH. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that I do want to highlight a little bit as I was going through your docs, and I thought it's quite interesting that you guys are allowing trade-specific bids for buyers, and like just like how you can also set different pools that specify token IDs. You can sell, well, you can create pools just for specific token IDs. As well. I thought that part is quite interesting because, as far as I know, it's pretty hard to place bids from a UI's perspective for Blur or OpenSea for like a trade specific bid.
100%. I'm really glad you pointed that out. We have been sort of experimenting with this feature and trying to make that more easy to discover on the front end, but it's something that we are still working on. One of the ways that we have tried to make it a little bit easier is by introducing this feature called the hot list, where we work with the community and also use a bit of our own judgment to create these like curated lists of like customizations. For example, like Spirit Azukis or so on, right, as a hot list. So then if you're using that hot list, it's like a shortcut where you can essentially quickly place a bid for any NFT that holds the Spirit feature, right? And we think that that's actually pretty interesting. And right now we're seeing this like really cool premium between the Spirit feature and the non-Spirit feature in that collection as well.
Yeah, like most recently, just like a week or 2 weeks ago, I was trading myself. I was trading Nakamigos when I was kind of going pretty crazy. I was trying to find like how to place bids specifically for snowmans, for crocodiles, or for like specific traits, and this is really hard way to do it. And then the other tough thing was, I was trying to buy and sell naked Nakamigos, and naked Nakamigos are different, right? Because the definition of naked is the absence of a bunch of different traits, and that's usually not specified in metadata. So from a user perspective, it's incredibly helpful to be able to programmatically, if you will, because ideally you could set up an LP on your platform that specify the trades, specify market making in different ranges for specific traits. And right now, it's very hard to do that on OpenSea or Blur.
Yeah, 100%. I could even see like a opportunity set where, for example, if we think of like some of the features that you mentioned for Nakamigos or whatever, maybe even like if we have enough demand for users creating these like trade-based bids and asks, it can even help to maybe even tie in a partnership with your product to to create like a perp market for that trade as well. That'll be like super interesting.
That would be interesting. Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to some of the other interesting protocol, features for Collection.xyz, is there anything that I perhaps have missed so far that we haven't covered?
Yeah, maybe I can just quickly share some of the data that we have seen so far since launch. I don't think I mentioned that at all during these spaces yet, but since we've launched, I think we've seen close to 1 million TVL of like liquidity deposited, and of course that value it's in some ways a vanity value, in some ways it's like a useful metric, right? And it also fluctuates with ETH prices and so on. So, but it's a good way to essentially understand that the protocol works and people are finding it useful. And I think right now, from a number, it's from a comparative perspective, I think that's about 20%-ish of like what 20 to 30% of what SudoSwap has currently. From a volume perspective, we've seen close to 500K of trading volume. And I think over the past, since we've launched only about 2 weeks ago, I think that's like a really strong number, vis-a-vis even like the volumes that we've seen on Sudo and some of the other AMMs. So yeah, I think, as a team, we're like really excited about the early traction that we're seeing, but really just trying to find ways where we can just increase the discoverability of the listings on Collection. As I mentioned, through like the integrations, we really want to be listed on the NFT aggregators very soon, and just increasing the overall experience and getting more feedback from the community. So yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. These are very great numbers for considering you guys just launched on the 4th of April. One thing that I'm curious about, in the docs that you guys mentioned, you do have plan on integration with various different NFT marketplaces. Is there any intention for you guys to also be an aggregator on your front end? Because one case that I could perhaps kind of give you a little feedback as a user, like if I go to your pools or go to your website and I want to trade, let's say beans, and if there's only 4 or 5 beans available on your platform, sometimes maybe even just 2, I can't purchase from your front end at all. And is there any intention for you guys to also integrate with other marketplaces so that from a user perspective, they can buy and sell pretty easily?
That's a really good question. And one that I think we've been debating internally as well, that we don't yet have like the final answer to. But I can share with you that we've actually tried this integration of like other aggregators sort of data before with one of the sort of products that we partnered with. So I think one of the products I didn't mention that we actually built is we built the Mutant Hideout, which is an Mutant APR Club specific marketplace and community hub in partnership with the Mutant Cartel, which is the largest user community of Mutant APR Club holders. I think the Mutant Cartel has like over 2,000 members and essentially most of the Mutant APR Club community holders. So on that particular product, the Mutant Hideout, we actually have this like order book aggregation across all the different marketplaces like OpenSea, X2Y2, LooksRare, and so on. So we have some experience of like running this like aggregated marketplace product feature. And I would just say that that's something that we are definitely thinking about, whether it makes sense to, let's say, include liquidity from other protocols or other marketplaces. I think so far we're just not yet committed to it. And right now the experience is more focused on what is owned and operated on the collection liquidity protocol, but something that we're not ruling out entirely.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. I think we've covered a bunch. I'm super excited to even dig in deeper and look and keep a close eye on your progress as a protocol, and we can kind of chat about like what interesting things we can potentially do together later on. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys, and I've learned so much from just our short conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and really excited to see NFT Perp and your community grow over the next weeks and months as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jose.
Thanks, everyone.
Let's go.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Look at My JPEG podcast. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcast from, give us a like, a subscribe if you like the content, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.